We had a nice sermon from the book of Ruth the other day in church. The preacher was talking about how Ruth, she was put into a situation where she was actually in captivity. I guess she was a slave, but she was chosen by the king of the country as the most beautiful woman in the kingdom, and he was going to make her the head of his harem, which I don't know how she felt about being in anybody's harem, but you know, when the king says you're my slave and you're going to do this, you don't get a whole lot of opportunities to make a choice about it. So anyway, after she was in there, this guy named Haman, well, he decided he wanted to kill all the Jews off, and so he's in good with the king. So he talked to the king about it. The king said, "Yeah, I don't care. You want to kill them all?" In fact, what he was wanting to do, he wanted to make a law. Kind of reminds me of some stuff I hear going on today. He wanted to make a law where anybody in the kingdom could kill anybody they wanted to of this other group of people that was enslaved, which just happened to be the Jewish people, you know. He had chosen Ruth, who is a young Jewish lady, as his new, I don't want to say wife, because back in the days the kings had harems and they had a whole bunch of, they had all the women they wanted. They could just take their pick from all the women, and he had gotten married at his previous wife or his previous best girl or whatever, and he kicked her out because I don't know. I think he wanted to run around nude and run around naked in front of all of his friends or something just to show off, how pretty she was. And she's like, "Yeah, I ain't doing that." So anyway, he had a big contest. He chose Ruth as the finest lady in the kingdom. Well, that was going to be his wife. So anyway, time passed, and this guy Haman, he talked to the king and passed a law. Let's kill all these Jews. Let's just make it open season. Let's just make it where anybody that wants to can kill any of these Jewish slaves they want to, because we give them the permission. We don't care if they do it or not. We're okay with it. We don't like them that much anyway. So the king said, okay, passed a law. Back then they didn't have to go through Congress and Senate and get it signed off by the president and the Supreme Court. They just say it. The king just say, okay, here's a new law. So they did that. Well, it was Ruth's uncle, and he said to her, if they kill off all the Jews, they're not going to spare you. You are a young Jewish lady, and they're going to kill you too. And he said, you got a couple of choices. You can say nothing, and eventually you'll get killed too, or you can talk to the king. Well, the problem about talking to the king is you just couldn't go see the king because you wanted to. You couldn't go to the king unless he called you. And so if she went to the king when he didn't ask her to, and the king didn't feel like seeing her, he could just have her killed right there. He'd just like, "Hey, come in here and cut her head off," and then they'd kill her. And the uncle says to her, I can't remember the uncle's name right off, "Maybe this is why you were put in this place in the first place. Maybe this is what you're here for. Maybe this is what you're called to do." And of course, the preacher took that and ran with it. He's talking about how a lot of times we find ourselves being in a situation, and it may be that God has put us in a situation so that we can be the person of the moment. We can be the person to go in and, speak favorably of our fellow Jewish people or whatever, or, basically talk the king into not going along with the plan to kill all these people that he's, planning to let everybody kill, because saying to the king, "Hey, if I'm your favorite and all, well, they're going to kill me, and then your favorite's going to be dead, and this law you passed will have done backfired on you, see, and this might be something you want to think about." Well, the king, anyway, she went before the king. The king welcomed her, glad to see her. "Hey, honey, babe, how you doing?" He was going, "You're my little cutie pie. I love you to pieces." And she's like, "Well, I'm not happy." And he said, "What's wrong?" He said, "Well, that Naaman guy, he's gotten you to pass a proclamation that they can kill all of us they want, just willy-nilly anytime they want." And the king said, Who? No, she didn't know it. She didn't call his name. She said, "There's a law." And he said, Who made such a law? And he said, "Well, Naaman made the law. Naaman came up with it, and you approved it." That made him mad, so he got up and he done away with Naaman. I can't remember what he did with Naaman. I have to look it up. Maybe it was Haman. It's probably Haman. He might have fed him to the dogs, or he might have had him. Oh, I know. He was going to put somebody on a spike. Just that there was this prophet it might have been her uncle, he was going to put him on a spike out in public so everybody could see how they dealt with people that didn't satisfy him. And I think Haman may have wound up on that spike. I don't know, but I'm telling parts of the story I don't know. But the part of the story I do know is this part where God put this nice young lady in a place where she could make a difference. She had to choose to take a chance and to speak out against wrong and evil. But that's why she was there in the first place. That's why God put her there in the first place, so somebody would be there to speak out against wrong and evil. In fact, her uncle told her, he said, you know, if you don't do this, somebody else will. But, you know, this is why God put you here. This is what you're here for. You're here. And I can paraphrase a little bit because I'm not a Bible scholar. If I tell the story and get it wrong, I can just say, well, I'm not a Bible scholar. I'm just telling a story. So the way I'm going to tell the story is, he said, you know, God put you here because he needed somebody here to stand up for what's right. And you can be that person. You can be that person who's going to stand up for what's right in this situation. And history will look back. I'll be looking down. But history, that's God speaking. But history will look back and they'll say, hey, y'all remember that time Ruth? Oh, Ruth, she was appointed as the king's harem girl, and she was really one of us. She was just captive and doing what they were telling her to do. But y'all remember that time she stepped forward, she risked her life to tell the truth to the king. And the king not only spared her, but saved all of her people. Now, the paraphrasing of this is every one of us are put in a place where we can stand for what's right. And we can stand up for what's true. And we can become known for being the person who spoke out for what was right and saved his people, her people, their people. Done right, just done right. You can be the person, you can be known, you can become known as the person who did the right thing. I'm just saying, that's a choice we all got. We got that choice every day. Now, I live in a world full of people. A lot of people I live in the world with don't agree with me, and I don't run around telling them what's right and wrong because I don't feel like I'm wise enough to know what's right and wrong. Now, on the other hand, if the king passed a law to kill all my people, I wouldn't have to think hard about whether that was right or wrong. I think I'd fall down on the side of that's wrong. I don't want anybody killing my people. In fact, I don't want people killing anybody's people, really. So, yeah, I'm going to stand up against that. But I'm not in a situation like that right now. But I am in a situation where I can speak out. And often, I choose not to because I don't want to fight with my neighbors who might or might not agree with me. I'll give you a good example. The other day, I was talking to this nice young lady, and out of the blue, well, we was talking about tomatoes because she was talking, you know, her husband had said something about he had some kind of cancer, and he said he started the diet of just eating all the tomatoes he can eat, and the cancer went away. And I asked her about it. I was trying to clarify, you know, is he eating tomatoes, or was he eating, was he drinking tomatoes, or was he drinking like V8? And she said, he's drinking straight tomatoes. And I said, wow, that's good to know. She said, yeah, I hate tomatoes. Now, she didn't have to tell me that, but she did. She told me that just right out of the blue. She just came out and said, I hate tomatoes. Now, that was wrong to me. Anybody that hates tomatoes has got something wrong with them. I was thinking, how can we possibly be friends if she hates tomatoes? I mean, really? That's not right. So, anyway, that's beside the point, but it's also, you know, goes along with the point that, you know, if I decided not to be her friend, I joked with her. I said, we can't be friends no more. I can't have that kind of negativity in my life. Everybody don't eat tomatoes. Nah, we can't. I didn't really do that. I wanted to. I joked about it. I may have even told her I was going to vote her off the island because she didn't like tomatoes, but I didn't really do that. But that's beside the point. The point is, when there's an opportunity to do the right thing, often you'll feel God. And a lot of people don't believe in God. But I don't care. I don't believe in a lot of people. So, you know, we kind of got some agreement there. But anyway, if you feel like God's telling you to do something, and you got a choice to do the right thing or the wrong thing, and in God's service, well, what choice you gonna make? I'm not gonna tell you what choice to make. Now, that's the part where I come to the part where I don't tell you what to do. Just like the preacher, when he preached this, he didn't tell us all what to do. He just said, sometimes you are put in a place to make a difference. Sometimes you are going to be the only voice to stand up. Just say. So, that's my story about Ruth. It might not all be exactly true because, like I say, I just told it out of my head. I got to where I don't look up Bible verses when I'm telling the story anymore because I growed up on Bible verses. I growed up every Sunday, every time the church doors was open, we was in church and they was teaching us the Bible. And I know all them verses are in there. I can't tell you where they're at, but nowadays we got the internet. If I want to know where a verse is, like that verse about Adam and Eve, I kind of know where that one is, but I'll just use that for example. All I have to do is type in Bible, Adam and Eve into my computer, and it'll tell me where to find verses in the Bible about Adam and Eve. I can do that with, remember that time that after Jesus had been killed and came back to life, and these guys was walking down the road in the book of Luke, and this stranger wandered up, and they were having this intense conversation with each other about all the things that they had seen happen, because they had seen Jesus ride into Jerusalem on the back of a donkey, and they was all expecting that he was going to be the Messiah, and what they thought of as a Messiah would be someone to go defeat Rome. They wanted a Messiah who was a warrior. They wanted a Messiah who was a battler. They wanted a Messiah to overthrow the government. Well, Jesus didn't come for that stuff. Jesus came to make a difference in everybody's lives every day. And he brought a concept to the world that a lot of people still can't grasp, and it was really all about love. Jesus said this new commandment I give you, and that is that you love one another. Well, that's a radical thing to say, especially coming from a guy who's a member of a class of people who's being intimidated by the government. They didn't want to hear him say that. They wanted to hear him say, I am the Almighty. I'll call down fire from heaven and I'll just destroy your enemies because I can. That's what they wanted to hear. That's not what Jesus came to say, though. That threw them all off whack. They just didn't know what to think. Well, anyway, I got away from the story I was telling. The story I was telling was down the road. They was talking about it, and they was talking kind of wondrously between themselves, like they was trying to figure out. And then a stranger showed up, and he started talking to them about prophecies from the Old Testament. And the prophecies from the Old Testament it told the whole story that they're talking about in advance. It was all part of the prophecy. And as they listened to this guy, they said, while we were with him, didn't our hearts burn inside of us? And at a certain point, this guy disappeared. And when this guy, actually what happened is they realized that this guy was Jesus. Now, this is the same Jesus that they'd seen crucified. This is the same Jesus that they'd heard had risen from the dead. They realized, hey, you're Jesus. We're talking to you and you're Jesus. We're talking to you about Jesus and you are Jesus. About that time, Jesus disappeared because he never been one to really hang around and chit-chat, and take credit for things that are amazing to people. He just figured, yeah, I said what I need to say here. I'm going to buzz on and let them handle it. And they ran back to town to tell everybody. I can't remember what I was going to say after that. But anyway, I'll just round it up by saying, anytime y'all get a chance and you got a decision to make, and it's kind of a decision about whether you do the right thing or not. You feel like God wants you to do the right thing, but you're scared it might not work out well for you. Like if your neighbor knew what you think, you might be in danger. And let me tell you, it's happened before. Over in Nazi Germany, they was killing people for what they thought. They were killing people for what they said. Yeah, there was. And you had to be really careful. You had to be careful what you said. You had to be careful what you shared with folks, because your life could be and would be and was, in reality, often in danger. Some people that said what they thought got killed for it. Some people didn't say what they thought, but they acted behind the scenes to save other people from being killed for who they were and for what they were. So, I guess if I was going to end this, I'd just say, okay, y'all think about y'all think about the story the history is going to tell about what you did and all. And I'll just end it there because I don't know where to go. I don't know where else to go. That's pretty rugged looking, but what I'll do is I'll let this dry up good, and then I'll come put another coat on the other side of it. I slapped enough paint on there where it'll take that days to dry, probably. So I'll put a lid on it. Besides, I've done started having my stories run together. If I keep talking, none of y'all will understand what I was trying to say, or where I started, or where I'm going with all this, you know. I mean, some people just say, what's wrong with that guy? He just gets a chitter-chattering away sometimes, and we don't know what's going to come out from between his lips, you know. That's how I roll, baby. Don't you love it when somebody uses the tool that ain't made to use for its own purposes, for whatever its purposes could have been if you was more imaginative. Yeah, baby. Cutting y'all off. Oh, I gotta go wash this. I'm gonna cut y'all off, and then I'm gonna go wash this brush. See ya.